Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Edgerunners HQ and our Cyberpunk RED talk show, Night City Sofa. I am your host, Jessica, and joining me tonight is my co-host, Games End.
Hi!
Hello, buddy. Before we get into the show, I just want to let everybody know, hopefully if you're watching this live, you're good. If you're watching the recording, I don't know how much time you've got left. Drive-through RPG, there is a massive Cyberpunk RED sale going on right now. I think things are like 50% off. Games is going to put that link in chat for you in a moment. But it ends this weekend, so you can go and pick that up. Everything except for single player mode is on sale. So if you haven't picked up Interface Red Volume 4, which released not too long ago, now might be the perfect time to go and get that. For the show tonight, we are going to be... Thank you, my friend.
I panicked.
For the show tonight, we are going to be talking about our Talsorian Games' Cyberpunk RED Jumpstart Kit and the free DLC, the Jumpstart Conversion Guide. If you want to use the mission that comes in the Jumpstart Kit in a regular game using the core rulebook.
It will require some work.
It's important. Things change. So first, just an introduction to the Jumpstart Kit. It's an introduction to Cyberpunk RED. It is not what you get in the core rulebook. So if you want to continue playing, you need to pick up the core rulebook. It's very important. But if you just want kind of like a feel for it, if easy mode, which you can get for free, kind of scratched an itch and you're like, oh, I want to try it again, but I'm still not sure I want to play the core rulebook, the Jumpstart Kit is great.
Well, and I was going to say, like, okay, easy mode we already said is a great introduction to the universe and world and all that stuff, and it is, for sure. I would probably do the Jumpstart first, even though it costs money and easy mode is free, because I think this is a more simplified version than easy mode is in a lot of ways. But I mean, it's kind of interchangeable. If you want to get people into the system, either this or easy mode are a great place to start from.
Actually, you know what I was thinking? So I'm going to cut you off. The
Go
So
for
You
it.
Missed Gen Con free DLC
is
really, really great as well.
Okay, so there's a lot of good starting points into this world. I will say this is probably, of all of them, the least compatible. Like, you have to put work into making it more compatible with the game. That doesn't mean it's bad by any means. It's also, like I said, a great place to start. But this came out very early in the run, and you can tell.
It also does come with a lot of stuff. So,
For sure.
First of all, there's 2 booklets. One contains world lore and the adventure, and some follow-up Screamsheets for adventures after the fact. The other booklet contains the essential rules that you need to play, which are different. Some rules are different than in the core rulebook.
Slightly modified.
Not by a lot, but there's a difference, so just keep that in mind. The Jumpstart Kit also comes with 6 pre-generated characters. You can only kind of customize their stats and their life path. That's about it. That's not about it. That's it. That's all you can customize. And it doesn't have all the roles, obviously, because there's only 6. It does come with an easy reference sheet to help during gameplay, which is super fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a player, maybe have that open. Like, if you have easy mode and you don't have the GM screen, keep that easy reference sheet open, because that will help you in any game.
For sure.
It also comes with maps and little standees. And if you pick up the physical copy, you get beautiful dice designed and crafted by Q Workshop as well.
Yeah, I was gonna show mine, but it's buried somewhere in my my shelf of RPGs. But the dice are amazing. Totally worth having the physical version of it.
Very pretty. I thought you were going to say your dice were buried within your shark container of dice, and you couldn't rummage through to figure out which one.
Oh my goodness. My shark has so many just random dice from various games, and yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad. But the shark's not even in my office right now. as we were playing D&D at the kitchen table, so...
Poor Sharky.
Yep.
If you have any questions during the show, please feel free to comment in chat. We'll do our best to answer them as we go. We're going to start with the Jumpstart Kit Rulebook in our review. And it's useful for both players and game masters. It outlines a brief history that brought the world into the time of the Red. It lists street slang terms, what it means to be an edge runner, and the various roles you can play. And after that, it moves on to the more mechanical aspects, starting with how to read a character sheet, including details, the stats that make up the core of your character, how hit points work, the basics on the various skills in the game, and it mentions role abilities even though you can't use them.
You don't get them.
No. Not in easy mode. It does touch also that there's 3 different methods for making a character, but you only use one of them in easy mode and the other 2 are not outlined, so if you're like, oh, I'm gonna pick up easy mode so I can just start making my own characters, no. That will not be the case.
You mean Jumpstart, but yes.
Jumpstart, sorry, yes, Jumpstart. And you can't with easy mode either, I don't think. So, but yes, not the Jumpstart Kit. If you want to make full characters, you need to pick up the core rulebook. Now with the pre-generated characters, you can roll their life path. The flowchart is designed to help give your character a kind of a dark future background. The life path sections cover your national and ethnic origins, your family, friends, enemies, personal habits, and more. It is intended as a guide, so if you're starting to get an idea for this character as you're rolling them and things don't fit, either roll again or choose or make up something. You don't have to go with what you rolled.
And that's kind of true with the whole life path system throughout all versions of the game, is like start getting an idea, and once you have an idea, you no longer need the flowchart. Still fun to do, but do what works for you.
Do what works for you. After that, it explains basic what is cyberware and cyberpsychosis. Playing in a technological advanced world is fun, but it's not without its consequences. So the more cyberware you install, the lower your humanity. If you lower it too much, you'll start to experience symptoms of cyberpsychosis. If you lower it further and lose all your humanity, you've gone over the edge. You hand over your character sheet to the GM and roll a new one.
Yep.
And that's all explained in the Jumpstart Kit. Now, once you've looked over the various cybernetic options that they contain, which is not an exhaustive list by any means, it's like a light smattering of examples, it moves to the Getting It Done section, and that covers all the technical and mechanical bits of information, such as how to move across the map, how skill checks works, basic actions you can take during a turn in combat, how critical successes and critical fails function, table of modifiers, the difficulty table, or difficulty value table, so you can find what you need to either succeed your check or not.
And the various levels of such.
Yes. The DV table is one such thing that changes slightly.
Yeah,
no.
It's actually weirdly harder in this.
I think that's because the Pregen characters are buffed in certain instances in this.
Yeah,
in certain things. Next is net running. Net running is one of the more desired aspects of Cyberpunk, and in this chapter it does give you everything you need to know, from the tools that are required to the actions you'll use once you're inside a net architecture. So if you want to learn about net running, I believe, it's been a while, but I believe easy mode does not include net running. So if you want a sample of Cyberpunk RED with net running, Jumpstart Kit is the way to go.
Yeah.
After net running, it's on to Thursday Night Throwdown, which is all about combat. There are details on weapons types and damage, range tables, etc. And then how armor works, hit points, death saves, very important, healing, and your reputation. And then the last 2 pages of the rulebook contain glimpses of stats, skills, armors, weapons, etc. for the pre-generated characters. So it's a nice condensed rulebook, but it certainly doesn't give you everything.
Yeah, it is a great overview of the concept without getting into very many of the details. But like we mentioned, it does have some differences in the combat and, you know, the way things work a little bit, and in some of like the DVs and stuff. So
it's close, but not exact. So you
yeah,
get a good feel for it.
for sure.
But it is something, just if you're going to say, yes, I'm just going to take everything I learned from here into the core rulebook, just double check your stuff. Now, the rulebook is 42 pages of information, which when you're running a game can be a lot to try to work through, especially when you're trying to keep the pace going and, you know, keep an intense scene or a moment going. And while you could bookmark or dog ear all the pages, the Jumpstart Kit contains the easy reference sheet to highlight some of the rules you'll need to reference most often. Compacted down to 4 pages. It's kind of a larger GM screen for the Jumpstart Kit. And again, slight differences between the GM's kit and these easy reference sheets. So do bear that in mind. The GM
for
kit,
sure,
for example, comes with like pricing and gear and stuff, so there's more tables.
Which, yeah, is very helpful. But as far as like a quick and dirty GM screen, this works great.
Yes, 100%.
So.
And that's all I have for the rule book, and then the easy reference sheet for the rules.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the Pregen characters in the game. So for a lot of games, when we're just learning them, usually we all just pick Pregens and run through it and see how it goes. I love that each of these are characters that we see again in universe. But like, we have limited role abilities. It starts with 40, the rocker boy, who we've talked about quite a bit on the sofa, actually. And so you have stats, and you can roll a d6 to see which stat block you end up with. Some are vastly better than others. Like, for example, if you were to roll a 1 on 40, you would only have a 5 intelligence and a 5 dex, but you'd have a 10 body for some reason, which is not really what I see when I envision her. She's like, it's got a really good, for each character, it's got one really good.
Interesting story.
Sorry. For each character, it's got like a 1-page write-up of who they are and where they're coming from, and then it's got on the opposite a stat sheet for them.
Out of curiosity, in that one row where 5, 5, 10, what is the tech ability?
4.
For play instrument, it's a base of, okay, cool, yeah.
Yeah, if you rolled that, her play guitar would be a 10 base, but not her worst thing. She has slice and dice, a monofilament wire that comes out of her finger, which I might add, she doesn't have a cyber hand, it's just a wire that comes out of her real finger. But she only has 3 points in it, and if you had that line and had a 5 dexterity, you would be starting with a base 8 for using a monofilament weapon, which is a bad plan all the way around, I might add.
It's not great. It could be higher.
Her highest possible tech she can get is a 6 on this rolled sheet.
That seems low for a musically based, like an instrument based rocker boy.
Yeah, so she would get a 12 base, which like 13 base is where like fairly decent artists should be.
Day.
Yeah. So she would be below industry standard at her best on this, which is rough. Anyway, so we have the rocker, then we have the fixer, Grease. Once again, he's a really good, well thought out character. Interesting, but so because we talked about how they don't have roll abilities, you have no charismatic impact with 40, which is rough because that's a big thing for me. But in a one shot, I can see how you wouldn't care if they have charismatic impact. A fixer not having their roll ability, I feel like is more of a problem, because unless you're doing it as like a one-day story, like,
well, to be fair, the apartment
Yeah.
is kind of a one-day story.
it's true. I'll give you that.
Mind you, the screensheets after the fact, not so much, and roll abilities are kind of really helpful.
Yeah. Well, and he has bribery and conversation, but no other trading style skills.
Not trading?
No.
Should have. Okay.
One would think.
Hegel links the trading, but okay.
Then we move on to Mover, the solo. Once again, no roll ability, so that kind of hampers him. Though he's got some really good stats you can roll in here. If you rolled a 2, for example, you would have a 10 reflex, a 10 will, and a 10 body.
Also, for the core rulebook, your stats cannot go higher than an 8.
Yeah.
So,
that,
other than the fact that you
three-
don't get a roll with easy mode, your stats are very wrong. If you're...
3 10s is pretty good.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't think that you're going to create a character and be like, they're going to be badass like this. They will not.
They aren't. I'm sorry. Well, and all of them have empathy scores on their sheets, but they didn't. None of their cyberware cost them empathy on the pre-made sheets. So the fact that he's got cyber arms, cyber legs, cyber optics, that's not a big deal. He could still technically have a 6 empathy, which is the highest he could possibly end up with, but... Yeah, so there are some flaws in here. We have Racer, the Nomad. Yeah, it's... I have no problem with the character as a whole. I think this is one of the most balanced. Jess, you've looked over this sheet before, so you... 100 years ago, more than 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So you remember it, but
Yeah.
it has some built-in flaws to it, too. Like,
It's been a while since I looked at racers.
so, you know how I just pointed out a line that had 3 10s in it for the solo?
Yeah.
For the Nomad, there's a line that literally, like, you have a 6, 2 8s, a 4, a 7, 2 8s, a 5, a 7, and a 4. You are well below what the solo is in almost everything. And your tech only being a 4 is kind of a problem.
I also just saw that there's also a line where I get, 10 reflex, 10 will, 10 luck, 9 dex, and I'm like, that's nice. That's not what I rolled when I rolled for Moxie. I don't remember what it was. But that was definitely not what I rolled.
I'm not sure that's where I'd put my point distribution, though.
Oh,
if
actually,
I had that number of attribute points starting out.
Man, I
don't think that's where I put
what it was. But I definitely, her empathy started with a 3. And most empathy for, this snowman is, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So you start low and your tech is either a 4 or 5. Which is slightly below average. Which, when you figure a nomad works on their vehicles, you think it would be a little higher.
According to this, she also only has 1 piece of cyberware. So even though she has significantly less cyberware than the solo, she has a lower empathy, pretty much no matter what.
Yes. I remember, slight spoilers for Shades of Scarlet, which is the Cyberpunk RED actual play that Games and I play in over on Saves vs. Death. I remember Angus, one of the solo player character, was like, do you just, are you loaded with cyberware, or are you just a shit person? And I was like, apparently I'm just a shit person, because my empathy is just basically low. I didn't have cyberware that tanked it. It was just like, nah, I just don't care.
You're just not born empathetic.
Apparently. Yeah.
I love, so the next one's the Netrunner, Red Eye. I love that they're wearing light armor instead of 40 who has Kevlar. They have better body armor than the rocker does. But their only weapon is the heavy pistol. I would not want them at the front line of combat. They have some great stats in here. They also are the only ones that have a roll ability because they have interface. Because they wanted to highlight net running in the Jumpstart. So it's in there. Though I will note, whereas Red Eye has interface plugs, they don't have the neural port. So that's probably an error somewhere down the line. And then last, we are given a tech.
Sorry,
once again...
I'm going to back up because I just realized...
Yeah.
And I don't think it doesn't look like it's been taken into effect.
Yeah.
That the Nomad wears heavy armor jack, there's no penalty, though.
Oh, yeah, there isn't. I forgot about that. Because I read that.
So the Nomad and the Solo are apparently your front runners.
Yeah.
But the Rocker Boy with body 10, no, they're in the back. Sorry, carry on.
Well, and you have, like, the Nomad has decent melee weapon and marksmanship and stuff like that, so that's awesome. They should be a utility player for you, I suppose. And they have those rippers that aren't cyberware, so that's nice. I wanted to say before I move on back to Torch the tech, I was going to say, discussing Red Eye though, we were talking about the programs that Red Eye's using. They have Speedy Gonzalez, Banhammer, Flak, and a Hellhound. They're designed to combat other netrunners, not take down entire infrastructures themselves.
Yes.
They can. It just is not what they're good at.
Yes. Yeah. Which makes sense given some of the scenarios in the apartment, but if you're playing a netrunner and you encounter black ice, it's not going to be as easy for you as if you were countering another netrunner. For sure.
Well, yes, 100%. That's a body 10 rocker hiding behind. And then we have the tech. Once again, we don't have a roll ability. We do have a basic tech, which is good, because I think they're one of only, like, 2 characters that start with basic tech in the pre-mades. But once again, they have probably the most average of all of the stats. They don't, like... There's a couple of 3s scattered around, but there's nothing crazy with them. They're pretty middle of the road with most things. So, yeah, that is basically the pre-gens. They're worth playing. They are functional characters. They are not all that compatible with the game.
They function in the Jumpstart Kit real well.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
They don't translate to the core rulebook at all.
Alright, so then I wanted to move on to talk about the Worldbook in the Jumpstart Kit. And once again, it goes into further detail about the timeline leading up to the time of the Red. And they do a really good job of breaking down what happened in the world and where. I would tell you all about that, but we've talked about it ad nauseum in other episodes, so if you'd like to see that, please check out our other episodes. Like, subscribe, comment, and follow. But skipping that, something that this does that the other ones don't as much, because we talk about, the Gang of Four and blah, 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 but this talks a lot more about the orbital space stations, the High Riders. This goes on to what's going on in the world around them, like what's going on in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Central and South America. Like, they break down a section, and granted it's only a few paragraphs for each, but this gives you more world lore than, I'm gonna say, most of the rest of the books. Like, if it's in them, it's usually like a brief mention, like, yeah, so in the Soviet area, they're building a lot of heavy machinery because they're doing a lot of building. And, like, that's the comment that you get about it, Like, what's Zarifa up to? Who knows?
Drones.
But this actually goes into a lot more information about what's going on in the general areas, which I appreciate. And then once again, it's, telling you about the dark future. So it breaks down like, why is this the time of the red? What's that mean? And like, I think it does a really good job of, it shows how hopeless the world is. Like, because, we're post the Fourth Corporate War and, nuclear fallout and all that. But it's also super helpful. Night City keeps rebuilding. Even though it keeps getting fucked up, it keeps rebuilding. Like, there's a lot in here that, like, for example, I'm going to go to there's a section in here that's talking about your characters are just walking on around on the street. What happens to them? And it's one of those, like, roll for random event charts, because that's being on the street in Night City. And it's like you're gonna run into a cult or a gang or the police or an investigative journalist. Like, it gets like intense, the amount of stuff that it's like all of this stuff is going on. But to remember that, like, sure, things aren't easy, but the world's rebuilding. There's still hope in the world. There's a part where it talks about television, and it talks about how like, television as we know it now is completely dead, but it's a lot more like cable access. Each city has its own channel that the people in the city can watch, and so you don't have a lot of options of flipping around between things, but there are things you can watch, and if you pay for the TV signal descrambler, you get to watch those things, which is nice. But also that there are satellites, and you can watch satellite programs from all over the world, and there's a large industry of, pirate TV stations that the people that are the high writers, like, jack into different satellites and stuff to, like, broadcast these pirate TV stations where you're going to get honest news that you wouldn't normally be able to get in your city. There's, like, information like that that's really interesting that's in here that we don't really talk about much in the core game. So there's lore and interesting stuff in here. There's a part where it's talking about TVs. Sorry.
I was going to say, just on the TV section, because you're like, it's not like TV as we know it today. And I was like, as a kid, grew up when antenna was still a thing on your TV. Yes, I'm old. But it was like you had 5 channels, and that was it. And if you had, like, because, like, as a kid, with this, cartoons were Saturday morning. And you had to be up early, and you had to watch cartoons Saturday morning, because that was the only time they were going to air all week. And I feel like that's what it is now. Now, if you grew up with streaming services where everything is always available at your fingertips, or you have 200 plus channels, very, very different. But when I was a kid, this is what it reminds me of, is that Red has gone back that way, where it's like, there's a set schedule, and that's all you're getting. Yeah,
for sure. Well, and I tell my kids all the time, like, you know how it goes black in the middle of the episode, then moves to the next section? That was a 2.5 minute to 4 minute commercial break. Yeah. You could get up, go to the bathroom, get yourself a snack. Like, they were built-in breaks in TV series, and now there just really isn't. No. On the note of TVs, though, it talks about how, like, a high-definition flat-screen TV is fairly easy to come by, but for, like, a crap ton, I don't remember how much it was, but, like, for, like, 100,000 EB, there's, like, fully realized 3-dimensional hologram TVs that you can buy, too. So, like, it talks about how, like, technology is still growing faster than humanity can even handle it, but there's no middle class. You are an edge runner on the bottom, or you're at the top. Those are your options. And I was talking to Jess about this beforehand. It talks about, like, polymer one-shot 3D printed guns are the most common gun on the street. I was like, we never see those. And Jess is like, it's because we go after people that have money.
Yeah.
Something
but those
with
cultists that you're running into on the street, just walking down the street,
they
might
guns.
have polymer one-shots, depending on how high they are.
Right. I was going to say that something else that this goes into that doesn't come up as often is, like, public transportation is a big thing in this. It talks about buses and subways and stuff like that, which I think is really interesting and important. And it talks about I'm trying to find the section. I apologize because
you're good. I was going to say something that I think is generally forgotten, and I know it wasn't our game because they're like, man, if you don't have a nomad, how do you get around? And it's like, bus. Subway. Public transportation is shockingly done really well in Night City.
Yeah, the police suck, but there's bus systems. Because everyone has to get to their corporate jobs.
Exactly. If you're rich
also
enough for
talks
maglev. So,
right.
Yeah.
It also talks about the different layers of police, like that there's like the security forces, the police, the more like we're not actually police, and then like Militech. Like it, it breaks down the different levels of the policing system and how their authority is kind of based on their say-so more than anything else. But something else I wanted to touch on is that there is a mission building 101 section, which kind of runs you as a GM through like how to build a story. And I found it really interesting that the first thing it talks about, the first area, is intrusion and heists. And it says that like this is the classic cyberpunk scenario is heists, and then like assault is the second one, and then investigation is the third one. And that really kind of shows you like the mood of the world that's going on. It's like trying to stealthy steal things, attack people, find out what's going on. Like,
maybe find out what's going on.
Yeah. And I like that it sets it up that way. So there's a lot in the world book. It tells you a lot about the stuff that's going on. And like I said, it's got that Night City encounters table that I love so much because you know me and random encounters.
Random tables.
But I think it's worth the pickup for getting more information about the world to get a feel for what's going on, and which is really what it does best, is give you a feel for what it means to be in the time of the Red.
And if you're just starting out, it has all the information for you to get that, to know what type of atmosphere to describe while you're playing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's pretty much everything before we hit the gigs that are coming up. So.
All right. I don't see any questions from chat, so.
I know, I feel so behind in chat today.
No, you're good. I have a lot to say about the gig, so we're gonna move right along.
I'm sorry.
No. You're fine. You did great. Now, as we're going to talk about the mission, the apartment mission, and then the Screamsheets before we get into the conversion guide. So if you're like, I want to take this apart, this thing, but we're going to play with the Cyberpunk RED Core Rulebook, you're going to need the conversion guide to make it more compatible, because like we said, those Pregen characters are not. So we're going to go through what it entails, what the Screamsheets entail, and then we're going to say, okay, if you liked all that but you want to play it in, with the actual core rulebook, this is what you need to change.
Also, for all the people that care about spoilers for missions, this is your spoiler warning. That here forward, we're going to be talking about a mission that occurs. We will, as always, not go into great specifics because we want to avoid being giant assholes about things.
No, we are going to go into specifics. That's a lie.
Yeah, we are, but
we are.
not like
Yeah,
everything, are we?
Yeah, we are.
Really?
Yeah.
Everything?
Everything.
Huge spoilers ahead.
Huge spoilers ahead. So if you haven't played through it or you want to play through it, mute the video now. I'd appreciate it if you could still keep watching, though, because that helps with the algorithm. But go ahead and hit that mute. That's okay. We understand.
Yeah.
Yep. But yes, huge spoilers.
I just figured I'd throw the spoiler out before we got there. Because in the book, if you're looking at the Jumpstart Worldbook, there's literally a giant red stop sign that's like, everything after this is not for you.
Stop reading. Also, if you picked up single player mode and you're looking to play through maybe an intro mission, I suppose you could consider this one. So again, keep that in mind. Not that, since it's you and you kind of know what story you're building towards anyway, I don't think it's a spoiler for you to understand what's going to happen in the apartment. But if you would like to be surprised, I don't know. Alright, with our giant spoiler warning out of the way, we're going to get into it. So, the apartment is written as though the players are using the pre-generated characters we talked about. If they've created their own, you may need to tweak the mission. If you've used the core rulebook to create characters, you will need to tweak the mission. The guide also mentions if you want to ramp up the difficulty, you could employ 2 different strategies at the same time when it gets to part 3, but we will talk more about that when we get to that section. So the apartment mission is centered around the players attempting to save the apartment building where they currently reside. And this mission is broken down into 3 different parts. In the Jumpstart Kit, the building is owned by one of the player characters. It suggests you pick a player character who doesn't have any family and has received it through inheritance. It's also one of the few non-corporate owned apartment complexes, which kind of makes it ideal for those who don't want corporate control. Now, all the PCs, including the owner, live on the 3rd floor, and the Jumpstart Kit recommends that they shouldn't be alone. So depending on their life path, their family, their friends also will live in the building. They could share a room. They could share a floor. They could live somewhere else in the building on a different floor. That's fine. But to make sure that the building feels important to them, try to add those pieces of their life path into the building. Now, the apartment building is not super close to a combat zone, and it's safe from booster gangs thanks to Rex, and this is Rex Royale, who pays to keep the booster gangs, away. Now, unfortunately, WorldSat has determined that this building is the perfect location for a new communications tower. And they don't care about the people living there and this non-corporate owned entity because they're not going up against another corporation, so they're just going to take it. The player's job is to hopefully stop that and save their building. That
Ideally,
is the mission
if things are
in a
going well.
nutshell. Now, part 1 of the mission, I'm gonna hope that Games, if there's questions, you will tell me, yes?
Maybe.
Okay, cool. If you don't have your question answered, Games didn't tell me. Part 1 of the mission is geared towards getting to know the people within the building. Get them invested, and then part 2 and 3 will be the corporation trying to take it from them, and the PCs defending their home.
So it's really important to have that first act,
yeah,
so that the second and third act matter.
Yes. Spend a good chunk of your time there. So the whole goal, again, is to get them invested in saving the building, tug at heartstrings, outside of the friends and the family that they have living in the building, if they have any. There are neighbors they can make connections to. The apartment lists 5 NPCs and encourages the GM to pick 3, at least 3. Your first option is Gina, who's lived here since before the characters moved in, and is an avid animal lover. In fact, she has 3 animals living inside the apartment with her, which are rescued. But Gina is also currently in hiding from Biotechnica. The second option is Rico Robinson, who lives on the 4th floor, and everybody knows either Rico, his music, or his former band, the Night Children. He plays various instruments throughout the day, records the session, and then mixes them together in the afternoon while playing drums and guitar. Occasionally, he is semi-retired, and occasionally he will play clubs around the combat zone as a solo act. Now, he is good friends with Gina and her salmon-crested cockatoo. So if you're thinking of Gina and Rico tie in really nicely together, or, you could just have her mention Rico or the other way around if you want. Your third option are the Andersons, a family, read gang, led by 25-year-old Molly Anderson. It does list the other members, which are Judy, Maurice, Marco, and Andy. They all share one apartment, but since they came from the combat zone, this feels like a dream. They're less violent than they used to be and have a rule about not stealing from anyone in the building. Your fourth option...
Staring at you, Moxie.
Yep. Hi. The fourth... Moxie would give you the finger or just shrug. The fourth option is Dr. Carver, who also moved in recently. While not a doctor, his work with trauma team lets him get by. And as a second source of income, Carver rents out the apartment next to his and has opened an unlicensed surgery ward for illegal cyberware, also known as a Ripper Doc. Now, given his night shifts, Dr. Carver spends the day sleeping, but will repair the character's cyberware if needed for a price.
I'm sure he gets along with Rico really well.
He actually had to soundproof his walls because of Rico.
Yeah. Yep.
And it says that.
Yep.
But also, the soundproofing helps the other tenants not hear the screams from his patients, so... Win-win?
Win-win.
Your last option is Grant Jung, aka Royal. Royal works for Rex, the local fixer. Grant is a solo. His reputation alone keeps most ne'er-do-wells clear of the building. And when he isn't running a job for Rex, he loves to unwind by playing cards. And every month, he organizes a community poker night on the roof of the building, where bets are made exclusively in mini liquor bottles. Kind of just love that touch of knowledge.
Right.
Now, all the information in these biographies can help you create scenes for your players to interact with these characters. So take a look at their life paths, try to form links where you think they may have a common interest, and get them, create a scene between them and one or more NPCs to actually have, a bonding moment. There's really, really great ideas in the conversion guide, but I'm going to save those until we get to the conversion guide. Either way, try to make these connections, try to have these scenes with the NPCs so that the PCs actually care whether or not the building gets destroyed.
It makes the story much more impactful.
Absolutely. Now, after they've interacted with their neighbors and each other, it's time to move on to part 2, which is possibly the shortest section. Part 2 gives the PCs a chance to get advanced warning about what's incoming, should they choose to investigate. It's simple. If they notice a black car that's been parked across the street all day long, near this vehicle are 2 Militech officers guarding a man standing in front of an easel. So this car, the man, the security officers are out there all day. You can let them know. There is no check that they need to make. You can just say, hey, throughout the day you've noticed this car, these people have been standing there all day. If the characters want to investigate, they absolutely can. If they're spotted, the Militech officers will tell them to move along or they'll be shot. If the characters press, the Militech officers open fire. They don't get another warning. They just shoot them.
And they're not joking. They'll do it.
Yes. There are rules for what happens if combat breaks out. The characters could run, though. But if it doesn't and the characters are able to get a look at the easel or extract information if combat happened, they'll learn that WorldSat is planning on tearing the apartment building down to build the communication tower. And worse, scrolled at the bottom of the easel, is tomorrow's date. So they have advance warning that tomorrow, WorldSat is going to tear down their building. Now, if they fail to get this information, or they just go, yeah, okay, black van, we don't care, we're gonna go keep playing poker with Royal, that's fine. They just don't get advanced warning. That's okay.
Yep.
And with that, we're on to part 3. Part 3 encompasses the fight for the building. So later,
this is the meat of the story.
I would say even. Honestly,
yeah, it's kind of balanced first
part
act.
1 and part 3 about evenly, and then 2 is just really, really tiny.
Right.
Later the next day, the city net will go down in a 1/4-mile radius centered on the character's building, rendering communications via agent useless, and the data pool inaccessible. Simultaneously, discreetly placed radio jammers all over the same area shut down radio-based communications. So even if your players have a radio, like a comm, doesn't work. Now, WorldSat is a communications megacorp, so they're able to do this without issue. Now, those in the apartment building will panic. 90% of them will go into hiding. The other 10% will arm themselves. Whoever you introduced in part 1 is part of that 10%.
There's your 10%.
So whatever NPCs you introduced and they bonded with, they're arming themselves. Now from here, the Jumpstart Kit lists 4 options you can take. And it's up to the GM to determine which one to use depending on what you like and what roles were chosen. Your first option, called Where There's Smoke, is recommended if there is a tech in the crew. In this scene, fake firefighters arrive and start ushering people out of the building, beginning with the first floor. Once the floor is cleared, they start placing smoke emitters to add to their ruse. Now, the firefighters have been hired by WorldSat to clear the apartment for demolition, and the smoke emitters contain timed C9 explosives. They're not real firefighters. Now, if the firefighters think they've been found out, they'll open fire. The goal for the PCs is to defuse the bombs in the building. Now, these devices are very clearly, they emit smoke. They don't need a perception check to, like, unless it's heavily obscured by smoke, it's very easy for them to go, that's not right, that shouldn't be there.
That's not what that's supposed to do.
Now, to defuse a bomb, it does take a basic tech of, with a DV of 18, which is really, really high.
Yeah.
Remember, complementary skill checks are the thing. Remember, luck is the thing. But I believe there are
and it's entirely possible that the pre-mades will not be able to, like, they would have to roll really well.
Yes, and I think, as Games mentioned, the tech is the only one with the basic tech skill.
Yeah.
So another character cannot attempt this.
That's the likeness to them having a roll ability.
So maybe keep in mind, double check their character sheets that this is a viable option. Now, if the firefighters start shooting, remember, some of your neighbors are armed and will fight back. I recommend, if you have it, and mostly if you're going to use this after the fact, or if you happen to have Tales of the Red Hope Reborn, which is a fantastic campaign in and of its own, take a look at the Hope's Calling mission in Hope Reborn, because it gives rules for mass combat. If you don't have Hope Reborn, essentially what it does is it focuses on the player's turns, but the GM has like side tables, so they'll roll for your friendly NPCs against the enemy NPCs and see which one wins, right? If the friendly NPCs win...
Which makes it all really manageable.
Yeah, so if the friendly NPCs win, you'll, like, take out one of the firefighters that was in the fight, right? If the enemy NPC wins, maybe you take out one of the friendly NPCs. Not necessarily that they're, like, killed, they're just too injured to continue in the combat.
Right.
So that way, if your party decides, no, these smoke detectors are the most important thing, and we're not going to fight, and we don't want to split up, still keep it a living world, still have combat happening, just at the top of the round, make your rolls, you know, talk about a scene, you hear gunfire down the hallway, you hear Rico shout, "Ha! Got him!" or something, and then move the action back to your players. Let's see, where am I at? So, sorry. So the scene ends when, I think they have to fight all the firefighters. I apparently didn't write this in my notes, but you definitely have to defuse the bombs. So once all the bombs are defused, you're good.
Mission accomplished.
If you fail, things blow up. Now the second option is unknown caller, and this is recommended.
I love this one.
If your players love combat. So if you are a combat heavy group, this would be the scenario for you. During the scene, one of the player's agents rings, which is strange given that the city net is down and no agent is working. On the other end of the call is someone looking to talk to the PC who owns the building. They state they want to end this without violence and offer the character 100,000 EB for the building with proof of payment if the character comes to the window.
Can I interrupt for a
Yes.
moment? I don't know if you have this in your notes or not, so because I didn't look. If the character tries to hang up on them,
I was about to
the
say
agent
that.
reports that it cannot disconnect the call.
The call cannot be dropped.
Yeah, I love that.
WorldSat has control of your agent.
Yeah.
You cannot hang up. So yes, if they go to the window, they can see the payment. 100,000 EB, just, you know, we'll walk away, we don't want violence. However, if the character goes to the window, 2 shots are taken at them, and combat begins. If they say,
Yep.
no, screw off, I'm not going to the window, the 2 shots go off anyway, and combat begins.
Yeah, there's 2 snipers across the street set up and ready to take you out if you go to the window.
Yep. Now, Julian Adder, aka Streamline, is a solo working for WorldSat, and he is set up in the building across the street. He doesn't enter combat until things turn for the worse for his side, at which point he will. There are also notes that if you want to keep him as a recurring villain, have him exit before, he's flatlined. The goal...
Don't kill him, probably.
Yeah. The goal for the PCs is to eliminate all of their hostiles. All the hostiles that you intend to be eliminated,
right.
Eliminate. Your third scenario or option is It's Just Business. And this is recommended if your players really fell in love with their neighbors. This is another combat-based encounter, only this time the PCs are betrayed by 2 of their neighbors who attempt to split the party and lead them into an ambush with a lone private security personnel, plus the betrayed individual. The kit gives reasons for this betrayal. Either Gina is being blackmailed by WorldSat with information about her past, Rico's old band member is WorldSat's hostage, the Andersons and Dr. Carver were offered a great deal of money to betray them, Grant was hired through Rex by WorldSat to betray the characters. Now the goal is for the PCs to eliminate all enemies. If the PCs, if your crew won't split up, then they'll take everyone to one of the ambush locations. But it is just a lone personnel plus whoever betrayed you.
Yeah.
The last option is Hack Attack. And this one's recommended if you have a netrunner in the crew, since netrunners actually have a roll ability and can do net stuff. In this scenario, during the blackout, a helicopter approaches the roof with a strike team and a netrunner by the handle, Crunch. When on the roof, they were going to split. 3 go into the building to attack the owner, one of your PCs. The other 2 protect Crunch as she hacks the building's net through the satellite dish on the roof. Now, once in the net architecture, Crunch uses the building's control nodes to the enemy's advantage, triggering sprinklers and fire alarms, as well as killing lights and stopping the elevator as needed. Their goal is to take out the owner of the apartment. If the crew defeats the 3 members of the strike team, Crunch tells the other 2 to go after them, and then Crunch GTFOs. They're not willing to risk their life. They did their job, They hacked the building, they gave them a chance. That's on the strike team. For the PCs, all they have to do is eliminate all 5 members of the strike team. Presumably keep the owner alive. Like the member of your party that's the owner.
Or they sign over the building before they die.
So those are the 4 scenarios that you can do. Now if you want to make it more challenging, again, the kid's just having the rules employ 2 of these strategies at the same time. No matter which strategy or strategies you choose, if the party succeeds, WorldSat backs off and looks for another place to build the communications tower. This is not worth the effort. Your building will not come back under attack by this corporation. There's some other benefits as well, including a reputation bump to 3, an easier time finding gigs, and better pay on those gigs. Now, if the crew failed, well, how much you want to punish them is up to you. Either way, the building is going to be destroyed by WorldSat so they can build their communications tower. Though, apart from where there's smoke, there's nothing that says that WorldSat won't actually evacuate the tenants before demolishing the building. Or that the tenants won't, leave before it gets destroyed. So, that's on you. And that's the apartment. That is the entire mission. You can do it as a one-shot for sure. And I have feelings about this, but we'll talk about that at the end. In short, it's very easy to follow. It's very well done. There shouldn't be an avenue that your players decide to try to take that goes outside of this.
They think things through pretty well. Yeah. Yeah, some of these beats and characters sound familiar in some way.
So from here, after you're done the apartment, there are a couple Screamsheets that are given in the Jumpstart Kit if you want to continue the story.
Yep. Basically it gives you, I believe, 4 of them. I have to get to it because I forgot I was going to talk about the Screamsheets and closed the book. Just a moment.
It's just starting off with precious cargo. But there's precious cargo just like real and definitely not Kansas.
And actually, so each one comes with the Screamsheet handout to accompany the story that you're going to get. But precious cargo is actually really interesting because it is an entire like interview with a chef. And they talk about how they've got all these fresh ingredients and, you know, they use real mozzarella and all this stuff. And the person's like, wow, that's amazing. He's like, yep, it's all magic. You should come here. It's delicious. But then your scenario is that a well-known fixer approaches your characters and offers them a combined 30% stake in heisting an armored truck. And then it walks you through, like, taking the truck because he's like, hey, there's this spot where it's going to be outside the city in the Badlands where it's like nomad controlled area. You could take the truck there and blah, 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 blah. And then you realize that you have, you know, trackers on your vehicle. So there's a lot of like options here for doing, like, you can try to bribe or persuade the truck drivers. There's, you know, different directions that you can take it. But once you are able to steal the truck and secure it and get it to the drop-off point, all of which is explained to you because this walks you through exactly what the fixer tells them. Once you get it there, you realize that inside of it is the mozzarella for the chef, and it's 25,000 EB worth of food ingredients that's on the truck. So your characters get their split of that. They're 30% of the value. I think that's a really interesting idea to, like, yeah, you guys are stealing fresh ingredients. That's the hook for this story.
Freaking gold in the time of the Red Man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One of our most the cheese heist. One of our most notorious missions from 2020 was stealing a truck full of cows because of the value of beef. And so that was known as the cow mission, which was horribly cursed.
Yes, never actually happened, but...
Yeah, we planned it for like months, and then things would go wrong, and we'd have to replan the whole thing. And then, so your next mission, the handout is about the dangers of interactive brain dance entertainment. And it's like info piece of a person talking about how they don't want their kids spending all their time on brain dance because it's bad for your brain. And, you know, like every parent, it's basically what I tell my child about VR. Like, you cannot spend 5 hours a day in VR. It's not okay. And that's like what the first part of the article is. And then there's a entire half the page that's taken up by a Segatari Rush ad, which you also find out you can get a Elflines Online specific headset for 700 EB that comes with Elflines Online, and it has elf ears built into the straps. Ooh. On the Segatari. Yeah. And then there's a small article about like, hey, we need you to join the police academy because we need cops. So this mission that is accompanying it, scenario 2, just like real, is your characters are bought drinks and then offered a job by an off-duty NCPD cop who wants you to try out a brain dance software to test out some of their training things that they're doing. Basically, you're going through a simulation that they've set up where hold on, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. They have to it's a hostage situation that a booster ganger is holding a VIP hostage, so the characters have to try to rescue the hostage. And basically it has it to where all of the character stats in the VR are the same as they are outside of the simulation. And then like it goes through talking about how like 10 Gallon, who is like the big bad in this, spends the entire time 150 yards away from the building in a arrow that is piloted by another student attempting to snipe the characters. He only aims at their head, which implies a -6 penalty to all of his attacks, and he'll only shoot if he has a clear line of sight. So he's trying to snipe you the entire time, but he'll only do it with headshots. But the trade-off at the end of this is you're offered to get free food at the end of this if you complete it. You also get like 20 EB, I think, or 300 EB. It's not much. But at the end of this, it does say when the simulation's over, the instructor does take you all to the mall complex to buy you all pizza. So, right. And then the next handout is about a new designer drug hitting the streets called Emerald City, which makes it to where you can't feel pain anymore. Which sounds horribly dangerous, but half of it is an ad for like how awesome Biotechnica is, and then the other half is like, hey, so you guys know there's a new drug in the streets, you should probably not take it. And this scenario is called Definitely Not Kansas. The characters are approached by a Biotechnica Corp that offers them a easy job. They get 10,000 EB up front and another 7,000 EB on delivery of the job. Basically, all they have to do is eliminate the gang that's making the drug and steal at least 30 kilos of the drug and deliver it to Biotechnica so they can study and reproduce the drug. That's all you have to do.
10,000 total
the
for
gang,
the whole crew?
Yeah.
Okay.
10,000 up front and then 7,000 on delivery. So 17 for the whole crew. It's, an easy job, so I don't see how that could be a problem. The gang is a brand new poser gang, and all of the characters are biosculpted to look like characters from The Wizard of Oz.
I love that so much.
Yeah. So basically, the characters are given C9 to blow up the hideout. Isn't that what it is?
Sure.
Yeah, they're given C9 to blow up the hideout, and then they have to take out the gang and steal the drugs. And if they can do that, oh, by the way, Dorothy, Queen of Oz, is their leader, then they win. It does have an included net architecture, because, doing it with a netrunner is probably a good plan. And they get their 7,000 EB at the end if they are able to deliver all of the drugs to them. There's a whole section about what happens if the roof starts collapsing on them because the C9 goes off, which is 5d10 damage. So I just want to throw that out there. It's kind of a big deal. But yeah, that is all of the included Screamsheets and their accompanying missions. I didn't go into a lot of details, and I apologize. Less than we did for the apartment for sure, but I think each of these have an interesting hook and take a different aspect on running, because one's lighthearted, it's stealing fresh food, one's testing out BDs, and then the last one's taking out a drug gang that looks like the Wizard of Oz characters.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. So that's everything in the Jumpstart Kit. So, and again, like the -6 penalty is not an accurate penalty for headshots, for aim shots. It should be -8. So, as a great introduction, as an introduction to Cyberpunk RED, to get a feel for what you can do, I think the Jumpstart Kit is fantastic. If you want to use it with the core rulebook, you need to make a lot of tweaks. Like, all the tweaks. If you want to continue to use these characters down the line, you're going to need to fix the stats and cyberware and everything else. So, but apart from that, if you're just like, hey, let's try Cyberpunk RED, if your group is like, we want to try something different, but we don't know what, I think the Jumpstart Kit is a great way to go. Just remember, it's all self-contained.
It is a good jumping off point. And it comes with enough stuff, like maps and, quick reference sheets and stuff, that you have everything you need to play the game.
Yes.
In the form that it is.
Yes. And that will conclude our review of the Jumpstart Kit. Now we're going to talk about the Conversion Guide, which is a free DLC. It's also found in Interface Red Volume 2, if you have Interface Red Volume 2. On how you can switch things up to make it fit in line with the core rulebook, tweak for balancing and whatnot. Now, like I said before, the GM tip they have for like introducing the NPCs, I think, is really handy regardless of whether you're making it fit for the core rulebook or using the Jumpstart Kit. So I'd read it through anyway. It also corrects the Screamsheets so that they fit better as well.
Yep.
So starting with the apartment, their first tip is that you should have each of your characters during session 0, have each member of each person at the table design their own apartment. Tell you what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know, it helps them get into character. I imagine that, you know, Wraith and Rico's apartment, and now this part we are going to talk heavily about Shades of Scarlet from here on over in episode 0, but I imagine their apartment was probably a mess. Like, just clothes all over the place, instruments all over the place. Oh, yeah. Like, just a disaster of whatever. Moxie's bed is super neat. Like, you almost wonder if anybody actually lives there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Questioning, yeah. No, I did do a lot of decoration in her other place, but that's beside the point. But it helps get into the character's mindset, and it helps them, you know, connect with their space, and again, connect with the building a lot more so that they don't want to get it destroyed.
Well, and I love, like, in good world building in any game, in session 0, you have them put flavor into the world so that it means more to them, like you were saying, so.
As for the actual mission, the apartment, and the various changes, first, don't have one of your crew members own the building. Give it to Dr. Carver, who, in this conversion guide, is actually a doctor because he has points in medtech. He is not just a tech stat-based character. Or in the Jumpstart Kit.
Which is nice.
This one, he actually has points in medtech and tech, so there you go. So Dr. Carver will own the building. Now, if the crew created their own characters, they don't start in a shipping container per a rulebook. They start in this fancy apartment building, which is a studio apartment. Now, this first month has been paid for. There's no change to that. It's just, instead of them having, you know, 1,000 cost, it's 1,500, which they will have to pay next month. Now, any exec in the party, if you happen to have an exec, they get this apartment in addition to whatever corporate con app they got from their role ability. So, why they have a spare one is a great question to ask your exec player. I mean, not having one where corporate can spy on you all the time is a solid answer, but
yeah, just to have, you know, a good time apartment
or a stash spot.
Yeah.
If the crew ends up saving the building, sorry.
I was going to say, both of the role abilities you just talked about, MedTech and Exec, weren't in the Pregen characters, so you had no access to them before this.
Worldbook.
Yeah.
Worldbook. Mind you, if you download Easy Mode, I think there's a Pregen MedTech character. Red Tail. You can get Red Tail. If you successfully save the building, Dr. Carvel will comp the player's next month's rent and patches them up for free from the fight of the building if needed. So essentially they get a studio apartment for free, in quotes, for 2 months, which is really nice and should hopefully discourage them from trying to move down into like a cargo container or a cube hotel, because those are significantly worse by comparison.
Yeah. Chat did notice there is a small spelling error on the screen.
Is there?
It still says data pack above us.
Oh no! Oh no!
Thank you, LCC, for noticing that.
That's for like the whole thing.
We'll fix it in post, I'm sure.
I'm just gonna leave it because I'm gonna have to put a whole block of black over top of that. All right, thank you. I knew I was missing something. At the start of the show, I was like, I feel like I'm missing something, and that was it.
Just a small spelling error.
Just the entire topic of conversation. Mind you, the picture next to me is right.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
And today I'm not,
Yeah,
Jay.
I have the right names, just apparently it's just always something, I swear to God. I've been doing this for, 3 years? Still can't get it right. Anywho. The conversion guide also recommends introducing each named neighbor instead of choosing, 3 of 5, introduce all of them. And you get ideas on how to do so. Either make it a big scene where everybody's up on the roof having a, joining in on Royal's poker party. Or small scenes like helping Gina take her groceries into her apartment. Or there's ones for each of them of how you can help. So consider that, but definitely give them all small scenes so they make those connections. Contrary to the Jumpstart Kit, the apartment neighborhood is a 1 block, which is it's only 1 block away from the combat zone, not 4. The conversion kit also lists possible locations, including one where the combat zone is on one side and the hot zone is on the other, if that's what you want to do.
Yep.
It also changes the number of security at the easel and tweaks some details about their gear for part 2. And in part 3, it recommends employing 2 strategies. Regardless, not 1, run 2 of them. Each scenario has some changes, like a DV13 demolitions check instead of a DV18 basic tech. To defuse the bombs. In Unknown Caller, Streamline wants to talk to a fixer, Zach, or whatever PC has the highest cool stat. Since it, should go through your PCs and not Dr. Carver, who owns the building. If it's just business that you choose, Grant, aka Royal, will not betray the crew unless there is a solo present. And Dr. Carver obviously won't betray them since it's his building that the crew is trying to save.
Yeah, makes less sense that way.
Yeah. Hack Attack, there's no change apart from some stat blocks. And at the end of the DLC, there are stat blocks for each named NPC, enemy, and friendly alike.
Which is super helpful.
So you have those handouts. You don't have to try to go through and edit. It's all right there for you.
If you're trying to do 2 scenarios at the same time, the firefighter and the unknown caller together would be the worst. Because you're like, oh, these firefighters are in there trying to clear the apartment. Then you get a call that's like, hey, come outside and we'll give you money. And you're like, nah, man.
And then a fight occurs. So how did the conversion guide change the Screamsheets games?
Basically, so Precious Cargo, instead of offering them 30% of the final thing, they offer each character 1,000 EB standalone, like it's a typical job, and then offers them a bonus of 500 EB to be split among themselves, and they can haggle to improve that a little bit, but not much. During the job normally there are the people in the truck, and then there's 2 bikers you have to deal with. This adds 2 armed security operatives to the mix also. And then in the VR one, so before you could check the system at a DV, I want to say 16. I'd have to pull it back up because I closed it. To make sure that there is nothing wrong with the Segatari. They adjusted that down to a DV13 because that's how it goes. But
because your pre-gen characters have too high stats, you should not have 10s and 9s.
But they are able to receive a gift for checking to make sure it's malfunction free and all that. They start with a loaded high or excellent quality rocket launcher with 1 rocket, which I think is insane for a trying to protect somebody who's been trying to get back somebody who's being held hostage.
It's VR. Give them a rocket launcher.
And then during the end of it, I didn't go into a lot of specifics about it, but during the end of it, you get to equip them also with bulletproof shields against the sniper, so that's pretty helpful. And then in the definitely not Kansas, they're willing to pay $2,000 on delivery, not $7,000 for the drugs, and nothing up front. So instead of giving them $10,000 up front and $7,000 on delivery, it's just a flat $2,000 each, which could work out better, I suppose, if you have a large crew, but also makes it worse. And it says that you should treat a C9 that the characters receive like a pack of armor-piercing grenades. And so it's a DV13 to set them, and a DV17 to notice that they're being shadowed by a security officer with a sniper rifle. And then it goes into more detail about the drug itself, Emerald City. It actually gives effects for it now instead of just leaving it fairly vague. And what I like about it is
the drug itself, which is really cool.
It's highly, highly addictive, and not great. Because it lasts for 8 hours.
Yeah.
You ignore the seriously wounded state for the time that you're on it, but you also experience hallucinations. And then once you're addicted to it, you always experience hallucinations.
Actually, there's some key things that you're missing too. When you experience hallucinations while on the drug, you can't tell friend from foe.
Yeah. That's part of the hallucination.
When you're off the drug, though, you can. Even though you're hallucinating, you can at least tell friend from foe.
Yeah. So yeah, that
also,
is...
the roof collapses. It's not D10s. It goes back to D6s.
Oh, I forgot about that. Nice. Yeah, they lower it down to, instead of being 5D10, it's 8D6 now.
Yeah.
So much better.
Better? Worse? I don't know. More dice, lower max.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all they changed with it, though, is just little fixes to make it to where it's less cinematic and more in line with what's going on in the game. So. And we get stat blocks for like 10 Gallon, who shows up in the VR one, and stuff like that, so.
So yeah, that's the Jumpstart Kit, and then the conversion guide. Now, we ran through, this is going to be spoiler heavy for Shades of Scarlet, episode 0 and 1, I think.
Yeah, it's 0 and 1.
0 and 1. When we played through it, it all happened within a day. We did not get a day of time to plan or prepare. It was, like, instant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost instant, because it was within the first 20 minutes of game starting, I think, that I started interacting with the people at the easel, which accelerated everything else.
Ish. But if I recall, you didn't get any downtime to heal.
I took no damage from the... they fired a light SMG directly into my chest, and I took no damage from it.
Was Rico healed? No, right? It was just whatever speed heal.
Yeah, it was just given, whatever speed heal.
So then, yeah, okay, it was just instant.
Yeah.
Also, we were pulled. Blank ramped it up much harder, and so it was the ambush. We were betrayed by the people we cared about, and the one for really loving combat.
Yeah.
And instead of it being a sniper, we were led blocks away, not just like near the building with one lone person. It was like a couple blocks away, and it was a full ambush. Because the team that was supposed to enter the building...
By military.
Supposedly just all of them were there to ambush us. It wasn't a sniper shot, it was a claymore. That, caused damage. We were put in a kill box. It was...
rough.
It was rough.
Well, and as far as like building the NPCs go, we met the Andersons.
Sort of.
We didn't really get to meet, what's her name? The lady with the pets?
Gina.
The really nice lady? Gina. We didn't get to meet her really. Like, I think she was mentioned, but that was about it. We got to know Rico, but he was built into my
Blake
character
decided
sheet,
to
kind
use
of.
him as your bandmate.
Yeah.
He wasn't a semi-retired former band of something else. He was your current bandmate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did keep he betrayed us because they had stolen his girlfriend.
Well, it said former bandmate. One of his former bandmates was being held hostage. So Blank did change that so that it was like Rico's girlfriend, mainline, was held hostage, which Wraith knew nothing about.
Right.
Which is one of those things where it's like, as a GM, you know, if you're, and it's kind of wonky too, because I think we didn't get to that part until episode 1 where we actually had character sheets.
Yeah.
But if that was his plan and, you know, he had made that band member, then knowing that it was like Rico's mainline that he was going to kidnap, maybe that scene at the start between you and Rico should have included him talking about his mainline.
Right.
You know, kind of worried, I haven't heard about her, or, you know, just let you know, hey, by the way, Rico has been really stressed out about some fight he's having with his girlfriend or his mainline, if you want to ask about that.
Or give me like a human perception to see if I can tell something's up.
Something that would have made that, because I don't think Wraith gave a shit. He was like, I don't know who this person is.
Yeah.
There was...
For sure.
Nothing. But yeah, we didn't get to know Gina. We didn't get to know Dr. Carver. Andersons were only kind of there as they ran by a hallway.
Royal was replaced by...
Royal wasn't there.
Yeah, but he was replaced by... I can't remember his name. Angus, who was made the building owner.
He was the building owner and the solo, yeah.
Yeah. Vel brings up a good point. You did steal Hot Wheels from the gang that's supposed to hate theft.
I did, yeah. But I didn't know who, like, one. Let me be clear. This was a one-shot where there were not going to be any consequences. Moxie didn't have any feelings about anything. I was like, I have no gear, no nothing. Why not? Who cares? It's a one-shot. Now that I know Moxie's character, she would never in her life steal from a child. Ever.
Right.
Especially not a Hot Wheels. She would have bonded with that over them. And I think that's one of the things where if... and I was very, very new to Cyberpunk RED, so I didn't know any of the terms. They were like, let's just do this one shot. And I was like, okay. And I didn't have time to read the Worldbook or the Rulebook, and I didn't know absolutely anything.
And you had a character without a roll ability.
Yeah. Well, not only did I have a character without a roll ability, he took away my car, which I'm supposed to get as a nomad.
Right.
Because he was like, no, that's too OP, you don't get it. So the one thing that my roll ability was supposed to give me, I didn't even have. Despite not having roll ability. Anyway. But as a nomad, and especially as a new player, it would have been nice to be like, you know, the Andersons are a gang. That's not actually their last name, necessarily. You know, if you're part of the gang, you become an Anderson, you become part of that family. That is very nomad-esque. And
right.
Moxie could very easily being a nomad, because that was the pre-gen. I chose Racers, pre-gen, I just gave her a different name. That would have been a really nice scene to be like, you know, hey, they're kind of like family, you're a nomad, they know you're a nomad, you know, and somehow make a scene about that. Where even if Moxie
because
doesn't...
there's a relationship there.
Even though Moxie had a 3 empathy. Thank you, stat blocks. Having that, knowing that nomads are very family related and having a gang that is very family oriented, that would have been a bond she could have easily made. But instead, they ran by in the hallway yelling about a burrito. And they tripped. I stole some gum in a car, and then that was it. That was the entire scene. You know, they kind of showed off like, Anderson, don't mess with us. I think he said Molly was 16 instead of 25.
Yeah, I was going to say, hindsight, we didn't really know at the time because all the books weren't where they are now. But Molly Anderson's much more of a reoccurring character. And like, it was a very different character, our Molly Anderson.
Our Molly was very, very different, yeah.
Yeah.
But that could have been
I would have loved Angus to have had a poker night on the roof. Like, to have that bonding, like, potluck poker night on the roof.
Yeah.
Would have been cool.
Well, it should have been because in the apartment, right, Rex Royale is the fixer in the area. In our game, Rex is a new, it's Blank's own creation of Rex. But Rex having a solo in the building to monitor it, because that, you know, that would have made a lot of sense. Even if Angus is a solo, having another solo, because even the apartment says Grant won't betray, like Royal won't betray the party unless there's another solo. So having two solos in the building is fine. And Rex having someone on the inside to feed him information makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So even if Angus didn't want to have a poker party on the roof, you could still have had that character there. But it would have been, you're right, if Angus had done a poker party and invited everyone, that would have been a really good scene for us to actually get to know these NPCs.
Well, and even
just
like
kind of died.
no,
Man, that sucked.
right. We got a veiled chameleon out of the deal.
Yeah, I did. I was gonna sell that shit so fast.
But even knowing Blank's storytelling style and all that, he could have used us all being on the roof for that poker night to set up the smoke emitters and stuff the night before.
Yeah.
And like given us the option of catching them, putting them in. But like he could have used that time against us and given us that moment to, you know, develop the bond and build our love for the building. Because like Wraith has never really had a home, so Shady Acres was really his first, like, I have a place that I live that isn't the street or some shitty apartment that I'm in for 1 month because next month I won't be able to afford it.
Yeah.
Like, this was the first, like, I've lived here for months. And so, like, he was attached to it, but I know that now. At the time, I had no idea. It was the one shot, and I'm like, I live in a crappy apartment.
Yeah, at the time, I thought, yeah, Moxie's just moved in. And even then, I think she hadn't been living there that long.
Yeah.
Like, even now, looking back, because she just didn't have any development with any of the people there. So I was like, I don't think she was there long.
Yeah. So it would have been nice to have those things that it talks about, especially in the conversion.
Yes.
I think the way the story worked out for us worked out just fine. It's just really janky that we went from the pre-made characters to like actual character sheets. That's why I've been giving this such a hard time throughout. I loved the Jumpstart when it came out. I still love the Jumpstart. It has a place on my shelf, you know, but it's
if you're
real
going
hard
to use the mission in an ongoing campaign.
Yeah.
Make sure you start your characters with the thing at the start.
Yeah. So
also,
that's kind of my feelings on it.
I guess I don't like, because again, it's self-contained. It's built as a pre-ship in like a one-shot kind of thing, right? And if you want to use it, you can use it for Screamsheet. It's also geared so that your party succeeds. Yes, they could fail, but the odds aren't stacked against you like they're going to fail. I feel like the way Blank ran it, it was definitely stacked against us, where it was like, you're going to fail.
Well, and that's to build a longer plot, but yeah, I think
but not necessarily. But the thing is, too, what the point I'm getting at that I really didn't like about it is, it was the start of the month. He took away our apartment. He took away all our belongings. We had no cash or nothing. It was like, oh, here, spend your money, spend all your money, don't worry about it. And then took away our home, and it's like, we have no place to live, we have no money to live anywhere. Like, there was no contingency. It was like, if you just wanted us to start on the streets, why didn't you just have us start on the streets?
Right. Well, and I was going to say that, like, all of their pre-made missions that they've given us in various books and stuff like that, like, yes, you can fail literally any of them, and a lot of them, there are real deadly combats and things in. But the way it's written for, like, when you succeed, this is what occurs, because it wants you to tell your story, even if it is a dangerous situation and you could die, it wants you to tell your story. And so even the ones that have, like, built in, like, if you fail, usually it's not so bad as long as you didn't die, you know?
This happens,
our version of the story was like, here's you're starting, and now you're going to lose half of what you start with and start again with nothing.
Half is generous.
But I think that it also is really important. Like chat said, it's chalking up to growing pains. It helped build the story that we're telling now. Like, I think it was a necessary step. From reading this now, because I avoided reading it for the longest time, from reading it now, I can say that there's a lot of things that would have been nice to see in there, but I think it's okay the way it ended up.
I mean, the story that we've written has been incredible. I think, though, if you are going to use this and you are going to if you're going to do combat heavy, and again, the 2 blank at the time was very still 2020 oriented. It was not using red rules. It was using 2020 rules a lot because he felt red was not lethal enough. He was wrong. This has been fixed. But just as a GM too, to remember, if they fail, especially if you're doing like the smoke emitter one, because DV18 is not necessarily easy to hit. I can't remember what Torch's basic tech is. I know it's +7. But if the building is destroyed, or if they fail the scenario, maybe just like have something in your back pocket, an idea at the very least of where they can go next.
Yeah, something to where they don't start all over.
Yep. That would have been nice. That would have been, especially someone who is very new to the system as a new player, spending, hours creating a character just to have all my shit taken away from me, and no place to go was not, and that was not, forewarned during session 0 or at any point in time, was like, hey, just so you're aware, like, yes, death could happen at any point. That was explained to me, but like, hey, you're also going to start from nothing, literally nothing. Are you okay with this?
Right.
Was never put on the table.
I wanted to put a note because I looked up Torch's stats real quick. So all of his tech stats that you can get, the worst is an 8, but most of them are 10s, and he has a 7 basic tech. So yeah, you're starting worst case scenario at a 15. So you have to roll a 4 to pass the check.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's worst case scenario. Otherwise, you need to roll better than a 2.
Yeah. Plus luck.
And all of his luck's around like 7 and 6 and 5, so
even 2 points would be fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
It
fail.
wouldn't be that hard to pass, but don't roll a 1.
Don't roll a 1. And if you do, try again.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think, I would have liked to see a lot more weight on part 1. I think we spent way too long in our game on part 2, which is really just a transition.
Yeah.
But and again, we weren't given any time, though, to act on the information that we had either. We found out this information and suddenly it was too bad, so sad you're in it.
I think part of that's my fault, though. I definitely escalated things.
No, because that's what part 2 said, is if they encroach, they will shoot at you.
Right, but then after I got shot at, I tried to get a gang involved, and
I know. To be fair, but that's you. Well, you did that. Moxie looped around, found out it, but that was the thing. He only told me it was WorldSat. He didn't tell me anything else. And it says, like in the Jumpstart Kit, it says they find out the building is going to be demolished. WorldSat's going to put up a communications tower, and it happens tomorrow. All I got was WorldSat logo.
Yep.
And then I had to be like, well, can I find out anything? And, I had to be explained what a data term was and all this other stuff. And just, especially if you're
that's
new
in
players,
the Jumpstart, Jess.
just help them out. Is it in the Worldbook in the lore section?
It is in the Worldbook.
There you go. But if they're new players, help them out. Just give them the information. It is much more engaging to have the information, see what story they will craft with it, than to pull back information for no reason than to make it complicated unnecessarily, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's great. No matter which way it goes, it's really great. I would have liked to see the firefighter one. I think that would have been really, really cool.
For sure.
We didn't have a tech, so that would have been real bad. So, actually, that one would have been very lethal for us. We could have done hack attack despite not having a netrunner. It's just the building would have had, like, sirens, and the lights would have gone off, and, we would have had some penalties.
Right.
But
we would have figured it out. I think we would have been okay.
But otherwise, yeah. I mean, you're pretty okay. There you guys go. That's our review of the Jumpstart Kit and the Jumpstart Kit conversion guide, which is a free DLC you can download at Talsoriangames.com or as part of Interface Red Volume 2, which if you head over to Drive-Thru RPG right now, they are having a massive Cyberpunk RED sale on everything except for single player mode, because single player mode just released. So you can go and pick up anything that you're missing in your collection or Jumpstart Kit, because it's awesome in a great way. And if you ran it or if you played through the Jumpstart Kit, please leave a comment down below and let me know how it went for you and what changes your GM made and what experiences you guys had with it. And with that, that will conclude this episode of Night City Sofa. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Be sure to leave the comment, like I said. And if you'd like to connect with Edgerunners HQ, you can head on over to Blue Sky, Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube. Follow, like, subscribe, do all that wonderful fun stuff. It really, really helps us out. Night City Sofa will return next week as we're going to talk about September's Cyberpunk RED DLC Single Player Mode Plus. The week after that, we'll talk about the full single player mode. I can talk.
We're doing it backwards.
But the last week of the month is always the DLC review. Also, I'd like to review this DLC as if you don't have the money to spend on single player mode yet. It's a really great resource. But if that's not of interest for you, or you can't afford it yet, I want to talk about how single player mode plus can be used to enhance your games on its own as a standalone. So 2 reasons I'm doing it first.
And it has a lot of the things I enjoy so dearly.
Yes. And with that, until next week, meow for now.